Right then, hello and welcome to ToCA 2 Touring Cars, the highly anticipated sequel to the first ToCA Touring Car Championship game. This game was a massive tenfold improvement on the first one. The graphics were overhauled, the physics were overhauled, and so were the tracks. No more do we have any Grand Canyons or mountains covering the circuits, making the cars undrivable. Not only that, a load of other game modes were introduced. You got Challenge, you have Support Car Championship, which has two of the cars that were on the support car package back in the 90s. You have the Ford Fiestas and the Formula Fords. A load of other cars as well that we'll get into at a later date. But yeah, we're going to do a full championship like we did on the first game as well. The weird thing is though, is that, basically the standard game had shorter race length that they had in real life. So for example, if we were in the expert mode, the first race at Thruxton, the two races were 5 laps and 10 laps respectively. In reality, they were 16 laps and 32 laps, which takes me on to the next point of the rule changes that they had for 1998. Instead of two races of equal length, they had a sprint race of, the first race was a sprint race and the second race was a feature race, which needed a mandatory pit stop. And the qualifying format as well was different. You had a 1-lap shootout for qualifying, which we will be doing this season. So yeah, let's get started then. We have to put in a cheat code though called Long to get the full race length distances. Otherwise we will just be stuck with like 5-lap sprint races and stuff like that, which is a bit naff. We want the full experience, like so. Cheat mode enabled. And of course Tiffendale does a whole cheat mode enabled thing like he usually does. Now, what this cheat does as well is that it negates the ability to be kicked out of a team if you don't score enough points. This game is pretty much as ruthless as the first game was when it comes to that, and because we are using a slower team, the chances of us getting kicked out of a championship are very, very high. So this benefits us for the sake of the series. Right, what am I doing? Putting in my name, that'll help. Yeah, I'm putting in the my surname because the surnames are usually on the windows of the cars, which are now visible on all of the AI as well. Right then, we had a vote on what car to use for these championships, and I've added up the votes. So let me get my piece of paper. So the Honda Accord had 9 votes. The Audi, if I can select the car, there we go, the Audi had 19 votes, which was very, very high. The Vauxhall had 17 votes. The Volvo had 7 votes, so he didn't do very well at all. The Ford Mondeo had a massive 24 votes. You can see where this is going. The Nissan Primera had, where is he, 15 votes. The Peugeot had 10 votes, and the Renault Laguna had 9 votes, so the Ford Mondeo won hands down. So yeah, this is the car we're going to use. Now, the thing is as well, like I mentioned, is that with the slower nature of this car, is that winning races is going to be incredibly difficult, and because of that, the cheat code that we inputted, Long, negates the fact that the team can fire you even as early as the second round of the championship. So luckily for us, like I said, for the sake of this series, to keep it going throughout the entire duration, it will negate that, so we won't get kicked out of the championship, which is fantastic. The first round as well is not at Donington like it was in 1997, it's at Thruxton, which is my favourite circuit. It is my local track, only about 40 odd miles away. So yeah, the fact that we're starting at Thruxton is really pretty snazzy. And you'll soon realise when we get into the shootout on qualifying is how smooth the tracks are. But yeah, another couple of life improvements will be setting up the car as well.
The first race of the 1998 British Touring Car Championship today opens up what could possibly be the biggest and best season yet. Global audiences in excess of 2 billion show how much this sport has grown over the last few years. And so to the first 2 rounds of the championship here at Thruxton. And it's a beautiful day here today, absolutely perfect racing conditions.
Wow, global audiences of 2 billion, and yet it took them 20 odd years to make another British Touring Car Championship game. The mind absolutely boggles. Anyway, right, so we have the sprint race then to start with, but we also have qualifying. As you can see, the laps, they're 16, like it usually is in the real-life counterpart, but like I said before, we can actually change the setup on the cars now rather than having them as default on the first game. So the only thing I'm going to change is the brake bias, put it more to the front because the rear end does like to slip a little bit under braking. The last gear, I'm going to keep it as tall because Thruxton is the fastest circuit on the calendar. And the suspension, I'm going to stick to firm because, yeah, it just makes the car handle a little bit better. Another thing as well, downforce doesn't really play a huge intricate part in this game either. It doesn't really affect the handling, so downforce as low as possible helps with acceleration and top speed. And here we go then, qualifying for the first round.
So on we go to the first qualifying session of the day. The new ToCA rules for qualifying give the drivers only one lap to prove their mettle before the race itself begins. With only one mistake from the drivers sending them to the back of the grid, tension should be very high indeed.
Indeed, so I forgot to change it up into 6th gear then, which was a bit of a mistake. That's going to slow us down a little bit. So, yeah, this is a massive improvement on the first game, as you can see. The cockpit looks like an actual racing cockpit now. It doesn't look like a 1970s ladder. You also have other camera angles as well. You got the usual chase cam, the cockpit cam, the bonnet cam, but you also have this wide-angled cockpit cam as well, which is pretty good for seeing where everyone is. But for the sake of this series, I'm just going to use a regular cockpit cam. And another thing as well is that if you try and look behind to see who's coming up behind, you don't actually see the back of the car in cockpit view. Your driver looks up into the rear view mirror, which is quite nice. So yeah, we're not going to do very well in qualifying at all because I did mess up the gearing. Get it around Club Chicane. So we'll probably be starting in the mid-pack or maybe even last. Who knows? And a time of 1:09, not too bad.
Let's take a look at the starting grid for the next race. So, at the end of the session, taking his first pole of the year, it's Volvo veteran Rickard Rydell. He should be quite happy with that qualifying lap, finishing in the top 5.
Yeah, that's not too bad at all. I wasn't expecting to start 4th. Now, the thing is as well, Kelvin Burt, my old teammate from last season, is nowhere to be seen. His seat was taken by Gianni Morbidelli. Unfortunately, though, because we are in the Fords, they were not very competitive in 1998. So Will Hoy, who is my teammate, is going to be another Kelvin Burt. He is not going to be starting anywhere near the top. Of course, he's starting in 9th place, which is where Kelvin Burt used to start. So yeah, there we go. The driver who has taken over Kelvin Burt, though, I did notice Morbidelli, he's starting in 15th place. So, yeah, enough gabbing on. Let's get on then with the first race, starting on the 13th of April, 1998 at 12:30 in the afternoon, which is cool. There's nice little information for you.
So, the engine revs rise as the drivers wait for the start of the day's sprint race.
Indeed. Right, let's get this race underway. Probably won't win. Well, we're not going to win, definitely not. But off we go. Using manual gears as well, so... Oh yeah, the driver does gesture as well. If you get knocked by another car, he does like to throw his fists in the air, like he just don't care. Oh, and one of the cars... Oh, and the Honda's gone off as well. Another good thing about this game as well, drivers do actually make mistakes and they do take each other out. The split times on the bottom left as well, it actually now tells you who is in front and who is behind and what driver. So that is another benefit of seeing who's who and where is where. So we're going to be topping out around about 149 miles an hour. The benefit of not having any downforce and the higher 6th gear. And the Vauxhall's doing well so far. Cleland, I think that's Cleland anyway, up into 2nd place. Yep, it is Cleland, who's behind Van Muller in the Audi. Okay, not too bad. That last chicane, club chicane, can catch me out. The curbs are very, very high on this game, so if you do go over them at a bit of an odd angle, it can launch the car in the air and spin you around. So far so good though, keeping up with Cleland. Although we do have Muller coming up behind, I can see him in the rearview mirror. Oh no, it's Anthony Reid has taken over the spot from Muller. I'm not really sure if drafting does actually work on this game either. I'm not really confident it does. But look at that, I got a run on Cleland. Hopefully we can get past him without any issues. Goes through Church. Nice, made it up into second place. This is outstanding from my performance. Especially in the Ford Mondeos as well. They, like I said, they weren't really competitive. Not until 2000 when they dominated the championship. Oh my god, the Audi tried to dive. He got that all completely wrong. Thank you very much. Yeah, so the CPU cars can dive and try to outbrake you through corners. Sometimes as well it doesn't work on their end and they can actually sideswipe you and take you out. So, luckily for us, Van Muller in the Audi wasn't successful in that attempt. So now we have Rickard Rydell just up ahead. Of course, they did win in 1998 with the Volvo team. So they're going to be our main rivals. The Renaults and the Volvos are going to be the main antagonists for this season. And of course, you do have the Constructors' Championship to fight for as well. So hopefully I can get my Ford team as high up as possible. Probably won't win the Constructors. But we'll do our best anyway. There you go. You can see how high the curbs are. Starting lap 4. Anthony Reid is only 1.4 seconds behind. Ooh, there we go. Thankfully, we didn't lose that much time on Reid. Did lose a couple of tenths though on Rydell. But the first 2 races at Thruxton are definitely the hardest challenge in the game because, like I mentioned in the first game actually, because of the flat-out nature of Thruxton, keeping up with the AI or catching them is a little difficult. And if you do get spun out and wrecked, the chances of catching up with the rest of the pack is very, very difficult to do. And the fact that there is no difficulty slider on this one because you do select the difficulty before the start of the championship, then yeah, it's not a case of blasting past the AI at the very start of the season. Well, starting lap 5. Anthony Reid, we're gaining a little bit of time from him, 1.7 seconds. That's equal distance between two. 1.91 seconds for Rickard Rydell, 1.94 for Reid. One thing which would have been nice, I suppose, would be for them to include the independence drivers like Matt Neal and Colin Galley and stuff like that, but no, they could only have enough memory for 16 cars on the grid rather than 20 odd that they usually had. Reed is gaining. Now if I go on bonnet view and look back, that's the only time you can actually see who's where in what position. But we don't want that. We want to have the normal immersion of the cockpit view. The only critique about this view is the fact that the mirror quality is very, very low resolution. And the cars look very stretched, so it's a bit difficult to see how far back the cars actually are. The only reference that you have, of course, is the split times on the bottom. So we're 1 second behind Rydell, and we're gaining a little bit more time now on Reed. Stick it into third gear, get it around club. Lovely job, starting at lap 7. You can see immediately just how we haven't spun the car yet. Now, if this was the first game, we would have probably spun about 50 times already. But yeah, the tracks are so smooth. And you have so much more control over the car as well. You don't have to tap the steering input just to get it around the corner. See, look how smooth that was going through church. Now Rydell is slamming on his brakes. Oh, there we go. That's the curb causing issues again. Avoid the curbs at all cost. Anthony Reed is just behind. Hopefully he won't cause any issues. No, he's dropping back a little bit, which is good. Now, one thing the CPU can actually do, and have done multiple times, is they can actually get up right behind you and give you a pit maneuver and spin you out, which they do on purpose. Which is good. It gives a bit more of a challenge. But I do feel because of the lack of pace that the Ford has, I'm actually causing a trolley train behind me. Another thing about this game as well is, unlike the first one, if you go into a wall at, say, 150 mile an hour, it will damage your engine, so you do have to get it repaired if you do come into contact with anything solid. So that's another thing to take into account, is that you do get mechanical damage. Peter Cox has now taken over third place. You can see even my steering inputs, I'm still flicking the analog stick a little bit because I'm so used to how the car's handled on the first game. I'm still trying to get used to the fact that, oh wait, the cars actually handle really well here. But at least we're keeping up with Rydell. Which is the main thing. He seems to be having little issues going through Church Corner there. He tends to dab the brake, which causes a little bit of puff of smoke. Oh, we got a bigger gap now. Alan Menu has now taken over third place. He's now 2 seconds back. So something must have happened with a little pack behind. Very tentative going around Club Chicane as well. Starting at lap 10. 7 laps to go. Oh, no, 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 no. Don't spin it. Oh, you swines. Yeah, unfortunately that can happen. I did, supposed to stick it in the 4th gear, I kept it in 5th, which did slide the ass end out a little bit. But it's okay. Just gonna keep my lines, see if we can get past. Oh, a little battle between the Nissan and the Honda. Now, another thing, unlike the first game, if you tap a car going into a corner, they're not going to spear off the track, unfortunately. They do stick to the road now. They do battle their way back up as well. Oh, I'm getting a little nudge from behind. That's fine. A nice move through the chicane. Back up into 3rd. John Cleland has moved up into 4th. So he did follow my line and push his way through. Now we've got to catch up with Menu again. .6 seconds behind Menu. You see, I like this better than the first game. You actually have to battle your way through the field, which is good. Not a case of, oh, I'm decimating the entire championship. Come back here, 2.8 seconds, so we've made up 1 second. Oops. Lost a bit of time, 4:04 now. Renault Laguna not found. Now, why am I using manual gears on this game and not on the first game? Well, manual gears didn't really help with handling or slowing down for corners like it does with this one. You were still going to struggle regardless, and using manual gears on the first game was just going to cause more headaches because it's just more effort. This one, though, it does benefit you when going around corners. Downshifting, of course, you have the gear braking or engine braking for you as well. I pulled a little gap on Warwick. Yeah, Club Chicane, I've always had an issue going around there on this game. Lost a bit more time to Menu. Will Hoy, my teammate. Oh my word, he's actually fighting. He's now up into 4th. The late, great Will Hoy. Hard to think that a handful of the drivers that I was used to growing up, like David Leslie, Will Hoy, this, that and the other, they're no longer with us, sadly. David Leslie unfortunately died in a plane crash, and Will Hoy died of brain cancer back in 2003, I think. I think it was 2003. Might have been 2002. That was a bit better going around Club. Thank you very much. I may actually remove the lap counter and the position counter, just to make my life a little bit harder, so I don't know what lap we're on and what position we're currently in. I'm not sure. I may leave it on just for the benefit of the series, so that people can see what's going on. Right, well, we're not losing too much time on menu in second. Rickard Rydell is just blasted away, though, which is to be expected. They did dominate. They were like the Renaults of 97, the Volvos of 98. Two laps to go.
2 laps to go. Repeat, only 2 laps to go.
Yes, you don't have to keep repeating, man. Come on. Well, we pulled out a little gap between Derek Warwick, who's got past my teammate Will Hoy. 3.8 seconds. Keeping relatively same distance between myself and menu, though, he's still only 4 seconds up the road. If we can smash going through Club Chicane without wrecking the car, then we might be able to catch him on the last lap. But I'm not really sure. No, I don't think we're going to do it. We've lost a little bit of time there as well. Yeah, 4.48.
Final lap. Repeat, this is the final lap.
John Cleland has now moved up into 4th. See, there's a nice little battle going on behind. Positions changing every single lap. So it's going to be interesting to see who's finished in what position for the first race. John Cleland still in 4th place currently. But amazingly, I didn't think this was actually going to happen, but it looks like we're going to get our first podium in the first round, which is absolutely phenomenal. So with the sprint races, they were basically 25% shorter than the length of 1997, and the feature races were 25% longer. Oh, and I've gone and ballsed up last chicane. It's alright. We're far enough ahead to keep our 3rd place. Hooray!
Here's a rundown of the final placings. A top 5 finish for the newcomer then, and I'm sure he'll be very grateful of the championship points.
Yeah, indeed. So not too bad. And my teammate Will Hoy is in 8th place, pretty much identical to what Kelvin Burt used to be in 1997. But Rickard Rydell gets the first victory then of the season. Alan Menu in 2nd, myself in 3rd. Then you had John Cleland, Derek Warwick, good finishing positions for the Vauxhalls. Peter Cox, David Leslie, and Will Hoy. Then you have the final 8. Gianni Morbidelli finishing in 9th, and the final points finishing position, James Thompson in 10th. Jason Plato 11th, Anthony Reid, John Bincliffe, Tim Harvey, Paul Radicic, and Ivan Muller, the top 16. And we get a nice little end to the race, showing you that we've won a little Egg Cup trophy. And the cardboard cutouts are clapping, which doesn't actually happen. You just park up in the pit lane and go to the podium. So yeah, it's quite a nice little ending to a race there. You get a nice little cinematic. But that was a sprint race then. Next time we have the feature race, 32 laps ahead of us at Thruxton, and we should do that next time. So thank you very much for watching as always, and I will see you for the sprint race, or sorry, the feature race very soon. Take care.